Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. My name is Niels Winter, and I am the creator, editor, and host of The Grant. My timeline series is going through the proposal process step by step, giving tips, tricks, and advice on the Horizon Europe proposal preparation process. Recently, I have been running through the actual proposal sections bit by bit and have now reached to the implementation section 3. Or more precisely, section 3, quality and efficiency of the implementation. This is where you describe how you will actually in all practicality carry out the activities to reach the project targets, and it is also here you will have to share the organization between the work packages, detailed timeline and so on. This is one of the proposal sections I have been doing on a regular basis. But, as always, to make sure I get critical mass in these crucial episodes, I have invited this time independent grant consultant Georg Melzer-Venturi into the virtual podcast studio to share his views, experience, tips and tricks with you and me. In this episode we focus on the work package descriptions. It became a long talk and hence I have divided it into two parts. In this first part, we discuss how to prepare the work, developing the work package descriptions together with the partners, and we move into the structure of the descriptions and what should be included. Please enjoy. The Grant. Welcome to The Grant, the EU funding podcast. I am now continuing my timeline series. I've just had a short break in between the many episodes I had on impact and the couple of episodes on excellence. So yeah, a few interview episodes on other stuff, and now we are back on the timeline series trail. It's a long trail that I put in front of myself to break down all the steps, but it's developing into a nice generic series that many of you are getting back to me actually and appreciating that the approach, that is something you can always get back to and check as a proposal developer. So thanks for that. Now, I have moved this podcast into being more of a guest show lately than me doing solo episodes, because I feel I can do solo, but it's just much more. It's nice to have critical mass and discussions on how to do the different things. So I'm trying always to have a guest on board now for most of my episodes, and also I have that today, and it's an oldie, so to say. He's been in here before for the Summer Struggle episodes. Georg, welcome.
Hi, Niels. Good to be back after the Summer Struggle.
Yeah, and you know what? That episode, people, that's actually probably the one that have gotten most reactions to on LinkedIn messages and so on, and PM messages. This is something that people really enjoyed.
I'm glad they did. Must have been your good questions.
No, you know what? Because it's opinionated. You know, it's something that as the discourse of the program also put a light on, that it's something that nobody's talking about that subject. You know, about how rough it is and how ridiculously tough it is to do these things in the summer. So yeah, it's it's just good to see what gets people engaged when you do an initiative like this that I'm doing.
There is actually, like a part 2 to this, because I'm in the middle of contract negotiations right now, and we wanted to start in February with the project, because that obviously makes most sense, because then we start going forward. But with the European Commission budgets being set in the calendar year, the Commission was very eager to have us start the project on the 1st of December. So we're doing that. Which basically means, the project starts, everyone says great, and then we all go on Christmas vacation, and then 4 weeks later we come back and say, there was this project thing, what do we do now? Yeah. So also can also be a tricky one.
Yeah, I actually never been at the receiving end of that, because it's been delivering proposals and then getting rejections.
Yeah.
and the ones that I got through, I stopped in the positions I had afterwards. So it's but it's I will have more episodes where I will focus on these things, because I've been discussing actually recently also with one from Spain, that this is something that really, it's just a subject that people care a lot about, and nobody talks about. So I'm going to continue with focus on the roughness of doing proposals and so on. So now to the topic, Georg. Today we are going to talk about implementation section,
the fun part.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about, so that's section 3. And what is the official in the template? So it's quality and efficiency of the implementation.
Mm-hmm.
And so people following this series have now got accustomed to me first doing an episode on explaining the template, and then having an episode on how to actually fill in or develop the proposal up against that. But in this episode, we're going to disrupt that a little bit, because it doesn't make much sense with what we're going to talk about. We will talk about the work package descriptions, the beating heart of not only the implementation section, but actually the whole proposal. And contrary to the excellence template and the impact template and many other parts actually of the implementation part with all the tables and so on, here for the work package description, there's practically nothing written about it's very little instructions that they give, so it doesn't make sense to make a whole episode on that. But what it does make sense is to have a very strong and solid episode on the work package descriptions, how you do it. So that's what we're going to do. So what we're going to of course look at the template, what they actually say, and then from then on we will break it down. In my rundown, we're just going to shortly start with how would you prepare for the development of the work package descriptions. We will also, for the a little bit less experienced people, we will share from a fly-in on what are the work package description actually. And then moving on from there, we go into the descriptions themselves. So the structure, list of work packages, the tables you have there, and then we will dig into how you would develop the task descriptions and so on. So, Georg, I don't know, is it maybe if people haven't heard you before, maybe you just shortly present yourself before we move on?
Okay, yeah. My name's Georg Melzer-Venturi. I run a small consulting company in Vienna. I started out as an NCP, working at the NCP 22 something years ago, and for the last 20 years I've been helping make projects happen. And started with just writing the grant, then getting invited to do emergency rescue missions, and then being integrated into the full project as a full partner to assist in dissemination, exploitation management, all the non-researchy things. I mean, the good thing is I am an engineer, so I do know a lot of what I'm talking about. But obviously, my level of detailed knowledge is zero combined with the experts that I'm working with. And that's always a fun part for me, because I get to dive into new technologies all the time, and have great people explain it to me very simply so that even I understand it.
Yeah. But it's all, I guess, if you, as a consultant, you over the years, you find if you have an engineer background also, you find your way with that, and then you get even better.
Yeah, no, it definitely helps. I mean, I'm a biotech engineer, and now I'm doing a lot with medicine. And, if you don't know what enzymes and antibodies and all that, if you have no picture of that, then the consulting work gets really tricky. And the more you know about it, obviously, the better.
Sure. Thanks. Let's hit the first bullet in the rundown. How to prepare yourself. So I put this because I've done it myself. So I know it's vital to prepare very well on the work package descriptions, because before asking you, I'm just going to give a piece of how I will make it short. I'm going to give a piece of how I was working with this. I was working in pairs always when I did do this in P&O. And my colleague would be the content colleague, and I would be the one that would, the BCB, doing everything around that, facilitating everything around getting the content, doing the meetings, setting up the meetings, facilitating the meetings, and so on. So from very early on in the process, when we did the idea development part, it would move into, so when you had the partners on board and the idea structure ready, of like what the work package structure would be, and you would have the partners grouped into who should be where, then you would immediately start scheduling work package group meetings to discuss work package descriptions in parallel with input for the excellence and the impact. But they would, the work package descriptions would be that would be the beating heart of the first things they would talk about in the work package groups. How do you work with this?
Well, I mean, the work packages and the tasks and the how you compose the work packages are the backbone of the project. I mean, that's where everything then else sticks onto and grows off of. At the same time, it has to convey the concept of the project. So I always have, people when they work with me get really nervous because I start writing really late, and I do a lot of talking. And the idea is that until everybody knows what the big picture is, they can't start working on their little part of the big picture. Yeah, so it's and that's usually 3, 4, 5 key partners with which you really flesh out what's the big picture of it, and then what I try to do, and this is, I think it works pretty well, is you try to get a group together, and we used to do this in real meetings. Now there's a lot of online collaboration tools where you can also do it virtually. I still think there's a real benefit to having a physical meeting, and basically everybody who's in there writes down what they think is an important task on a post-it, and then what you do is you sort of find how do these post-its, how do these tasks, some of which will be huge and some of them will be tiny, how do these arrange chronologically? And you basically, you stick them up on a board, more or less, in one row. Yeah? And then you try to think of, okay, and how, where are there parallel streams? And then you show from the top row of, which is, a consecutive flow of just how things happen consequentially, you start moving them down one row. It's like, okay, this group of you'll have like 30, 40 activities up there, yeah, and then you'll move 5 to 10 into a row and start separating this one big row into 3, 4, 5 parallel flows. Now the problem always is that a well thought out project is difficult to divide into work packages, and when you've done it, then you've done it right, because then they're always working together and collaborating. And that makes it difficult to pick apart. Yeah, if it's too easy to split.
How do you prepare for that? So what is your preparation for these first meetings?
The preparation is having lots of people bring in lots of crazy ideas, where you really, because at that meeting you want everybody to write as much as they can, because it's a lot easier to throw away 10 tasks than to invent one that's nobody's thinking of. because if it's on nobody's mind, it's just not going to be there. Yeah. And then saying, yeah, that's out of scope, that's too much, it'll take too long, it'll cost too much. Yeah, there's 100 reasons why you can kick something out. Yeah? But if you limit this creative process where everybody, and to a certain degree, obviously everybody brings their dream job, especially from in the academic world. Oh, I've always wanted to, look at this or that. This might be my chance, but it can be interesting, and sometimes it does make sense, and sometimes it is fruitful. And then obviously in this elimination process, you're basically taking away people's favorite child, and that can be tricky. But at the end of the day, my job is to get the project across the finish line and not to make everybody happy. So I'm usually the bad guy in the room. First motivating everybody to think crazy and see what we can throw at the... Well, because you want to really throw interesting new ideas at the call topic, and really can I get away with doing this thing in the context that the call topic gives, and then you have to then you have a lot of paint blobs on your canvas, and then you have to say which ones to have to scrape off again in order to be able to paint a good picture. And so,
do you when you prepare, do you have a sort of, how do you say, a working concept, a way of working that you've been developing over the years to make sure that before you go, do you send a template out before, for instance, to them concerning, or do you do anything to make sure that when you come at the day for the meeting with the group, that then information is already there? Or
but to be honest, I don't use a lot of tools. I simply have, usually together with the coordinator, because that's obviously the person who understands the project that they want to do, phone calls. It's phone calls where we say, this is what we want to do, this is where we think we could go, how can your ideas fit in? We saw this from an earlier paper, we knew you did this in the other project, we think that might work, do you have any new ideas? And when you do that on a one-on-one basis, during that call you get a couple ideas, but usually you're incentivizing people to think what they can bring to the project. And the funny thing about our brain is we're structured to sort of keep complex questions and problems in the back of our mind and keep working on them. So if that same person then 2 weeks later shows up at the physical meeting with other people in the room, he or she will have come up with 10 little crazy ideas that didn't come up at that first call. So 1-2 phone calls preceding, where you're really trying to say, look, we need ideas. If we just do the 7 tasks that you did last time and plus a little bit, it's just not going to fly. We really need to go forward. We really need to bring new things, new concepts, new ideas into here. And so far I haven't read the book 3 Easy Steps to Being Super Creative, because I don't think it exists.
Being creative, that's it requires it's as different as each of us, so to say. Right?
And different people need different things, and you can say but I agree. The basic thing is, look, we're gonna have this meeting this is where we bring a lot of ideas together, and the whole purpose of sitting there is bringing as many ideas as we can into the meeting, and then deciding what stays.
Yeah, and maybe for the listener, so to zoom out for them to understand the flow of the process. Experienced proposals developers will be perfectly on top of this, but just to understand that this part of the process, we already reached the point where you've been through so you have the project, you have the process idea that has been put into a work package frame, a structure. So it's already quite fine, the development, so to say. So that's just, you don't have to, here it starts to get concrete, where you need to force the partners to say, okay, you have this that you want to do, you have this fantastic technology you want to develop, or what do you actually need to do reach from point A to point. So you have to. This is what they need to do in these meetings. They need to be forced to put down on paper what is the actual task and activities that needs to be done within this individual work package to get to that point. It was just to for everybody to understand where we are in the process. Okay.
Yeah. It's sort of like, when you're making a plan to build a house, there's, what the finished house is going to look like. And you know that you're going to have to pour concrete to get a foundation. Then you're going to have to put up walls. Then you're going to have to leave gaps for windows and put a roof on. And if in your call you only have the guy who does the foundation and the roof guy, nobody's going to say, yeah, but what about the windows and what about the doors and what about the walls? And so it's a lot about making when you're in this process, a lot of times you also realize that there's something essential missing, because all of a sudden you realize, hey, we have really cool windows, we have a really cool roof, we have a really cool foundation, but we don't have any walls. Yeah. So and that's also, I think, an important part that especially because there's always this discrepancy between what you want to do, on a
exactly.
scientific interest kind of point of view, and the constraints that are given through the call text. I mean, I remember we had a project that just finished, and at the final review, we were asked by the project officer why we hadn't considered using drones for surveillance. And I said, because it was explicitly mentioned in the call text that we're not allowed to do drones. And he was like, you remember this? And I was like, yes, I remember this detail because I found it really annoying. Yeah. Because there was another call that explicitly was about drones. So we weren't allowed to do drones in ours.
EU Commission, we love you, but sometimes you just...
Yeah. No, I mean, it did make sense. It did make sense. But then again, it's really important when you have these constraints, then you also say, because one of the tasks then obviously that we put into the project is like, we will need to cooperate with the winners of call topic number 1, 2, 3, whatever it was. Yeah. And we did that, and we got them, and we just, used their technology in our setting, and it did work out okay. Yeah. But there are constraints, and you have to deal with them. But also, these constraints, everybody has this constraint. And if you're the one who has a task that addresses that constraint and how it can be amended in the project's execution, then you're a step ahead. And that's why these tasks are not just, a construction of steps that you follow to reach your goal. This is also how to, they should correlate to where you want to go, not only what you want
Correct.
to do. Yeah?
Which we already now bridging into. So let's just get at it, the VP descriptions themselves. The structure. So in the template you have this top table where you have to put work packages, numbers, and you have to put the partners that are involved in each of the work. So you make a table per work package, a description per work package.
Yeah, but I think they're changing that now. Where then, because there used to be lots of repetition in the on the work package table. You had the top row where you had the partner 1, 2, 3, their short name and how many work packages they had, and then there was the person month per work package and da. And now I think they've consolidated all of that. I think in the new template it's just one table for all. So, and also, the deliverables are no longer part of the work package. They're just in the deliverables. So this, where you always had to be careful that when you did you changed a person month somewhere, and then you had to do it in 3 other places.
Yeah,
so that's
and I can actually see, because I did submit Horizon Europe proposals last autumn before I stopped working in the proposal sector, but I can see here it's correct. In the work package description template here, it's work package number and title, and then they explicitly says participants involved in each work package and their efforts are shown in table 3.1. F, lead participant and starting and end of date, of which VP are shown in table 1.3.1a. So all these data that you would normally put, you would put exactly as we just, like repetitive information,
it was
and
useless. It was
horrible tables to put up. Yeah.
There's no good formatting. Either the names were too long, and then you had to squeeze and then play around with font sizes to make it work and not look terrible. Because when you have 15 partners, it didn't work out on the
Green Deal
on an A4
proposals
paper.
last winter with 30 partners or 35 partners.
I know why you quit now.
I had 3 Green Deal proposals simultaneously where I was sitting and doing this bullshit. It was horrible.
Yeah, no, that is really an improvement, because now it's just the basic starting date, name, whatever, lead participant, and then it goes straight to objective and the tasks. And the milestones and deliverables are also, just in the milestones and deliverables tables 3.1.
So what the commission has done, they made it very simple for us. So everybody who has not done proposals before and not just doing it now, you're very lucky. And everybody who has done this for many years, you are relieved, because it was a nuisance to deal with. So what you need to deal with now is you need to put a work package number and you need to put a work package title, and then this is simple. Then we move into objectives and description of work. So deliverables, it's also down into a table, and the milestones are down into a table. So objectives and description of work. So Georg, objectives, hit me.
Yeah, I mean, those have to be really clear at the end of the day, and there is a trick, because you have the objectives in the call text, and basically those are always your guiding principle. Yeah, so with the objectives and outcomes, I believe, with those two things, those structure your work plan as a whole, and with those two things, I mean, it depends. I mean, I've seen call texts where you have 1 or 2 objectives, and sometimes you have the feeling there's 17 objectives, and you want to make that into 3, 4, 5 of the technical work packages, because that's a number that's been consistent. That goes on pretty well. So if you only have 1 or 2 objectives in the call text, then you're going to have to expand those into sub objectives, and then those drift into the work packages. If you have 15 objectives, then you have to combine them, and if there's 3, 4, or 5, then you're lucky, because that could be a good starting point for your work packages. But again, there is no right way to do this. I mean, sometimes the objectives just don't make sense as far as objectives for the work packages, and then you have to reorganize.
Yeah. And it's always, you need to have objectives for all work packages, and it's not always that it's one-to-one in relation to the call text, so to say. You understand? It's something that would fit into, of course, elements, but they are very work package reliant. So it's specifically what you have carved out how you are doing your project. So there would always be something where you cannot directly go into the call text in relation to that, but you need to, it's specific to your specific work package that you have carved out. How many do you have? Numbers of objectives per work package? How many would you, by rule of thumb?
I would say between 1, maximum 3, but 1 or 2 is usually what you try to really go for. You really try to group the tasks that are in the work package that contribute to one objective. And you're right, these objectives can lead you, onto a false path sometimes, the way they're written in the call text. but one nice way to make sure that you get back is that you correlate the objectives and the outcomes of what it says in the work plan to tasks.
Yeah.
So that's, it sort of sounds like, that a snake is is chewing its own tail and swallowing itself, and to a certain degree it is, but instead of getting smaller and smaller by it actually gets bigger and bigger, because that's the closing loop of how you make sure that the work that you're doing fits to what the call text wants you to do. Yeah. And if there's an objective in there that you have no task that sort of goes toward that, or no task that goes toward a certain outcome, then you're still missing something, and it might be another partner that you need to bring in. That's this whole thing. You have everything except for the walls, and that's going to be a very interesting house.
So just for the for the proposal developer out there that sits and quietly listen to our little podcast here, when you develop your objectives, that's really core to what you need to get out of the work you do in that work package. This is the pure reason, the square root, so to say, the reason why you were doing the work in this work package. And I'm sitting and looking at a winning proposal I was doing, one of the few winning proposals I've been involved in, and I can see that they have, the ones that have been involved in doing this, I have work packages where they have generally it's about 3 to 4, some 2, but I have one here with 4 objectives, and here I have one with 7. Seems like a lot.
Does the one with 7 objectives have 7 tasks?
That's what we're going to talk a little bit about now. It only has 4 tasks.
Oh, that's tricky. Okay.
So this is what we're going to talk a little bit about now. This is why I said the objectives, those are the square root of this is what you need to get out of in the end. Yeah, this is the pure reason, square root reason why you are doing this work package. You should, in 1 to 2 lines, be able to say, this is the development of this specific material. This is the development of this specific other material. This is what we will do in this. And then comes your description of the work, where you outline task by task, steps, what is exactly needed to do this. So, yeah, is that correct?
Yeah. No, that's definitely it. I mean, basically, the objectives of the whatever 4, 5, 6 technical work packages. That's when you read that, you should have an idea of what to expect in the tasks. If they're well written, you're going to say, what are the things they're going to, even not knowing the details and not knowing it, it's like the introduction,
And that can be, how do you find that process to narrow in on that? How do you...
it's terrible. There is no... No, because the problem, it's sort of like writing the intro or executive summary, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, you have to be done before you can writing the intro. And the objectives and tasks are always playing a cat and mouse game, where you have to make sure that the objectives lead to the tasks, and that the tasks actually relay what the objectives are promising. While at the same time making sure that the entire structure does what it's supposed to do. So it really is a juggling act. But again, at the end of the day, writing a proposal is not a linear process.
Exactly.
It's iteration, and I mean, obviously, when you're talking about, a project with 10, 15 partners, you're not going to have everybody on every call. Yeah. So you do subdivide and say, okay, and then the work package 3 people have their call and they discuss on what they want to do. And then a week later, everybody sits down together, and then you realize what work package 3 is doing is being duplicated in work package 4, and neither of them did this task, which was actually, needs to be done somewhere. And then you need to bring it all back together. So that's, if anybody has a good process on how to get that done in a linear way, I'd be glad to hear it.
No, you cannot. It's impossible, and it will never be like that, because this is like developing a project, and this is problem solving, yeah. And problem solving is never linear, especially when you're in a group. So.
And it shouldn't be. I mean, actually, that is a certain, litmus test. If your approach is linear, then what you're doing is not innovative.
No,
it can't be, because you're anticipating the next step, and if you have that much anticipation for the cascade of steps, then there's a risk that the innovation might not be as much as it could be.
Okay, so the description of the work is it is one of the most important things that anyone does at all in the proposal preparation process. This is developing, that is the beating heart, because this is where you, in all practicality, get down to what do we actually have to do, and who will do it together with who, and when, and how does it spill over into each other. How do the tasks, how do they flow? And here you have, of course, your Gantt chart that we will discuss in another episode when we talk about all the other stuff in the implementation part. But you cannot do anything else. Everything comes down to all the task descriptions, when, from what month to what month will they be done, and that process, it's like a huge puzzle where everything's just you try together with tons of different partners to put these things together, and often the duration and when is something that you I have said and done this 2 days before submission.
and as soon as you have it and you're like, okay, I have a Gantt, somebody's going to come along and say, yeah, but task 3.7 has to be like 6 months longer. There's no way we can do it in that timeline.
And then
and then everything just falls apart again.
Other guys would say, no, wait, we cannot do then we cannot this disrupts our process over here, and so on and so forth. So just to be pedagogical towards the dear listeners. So description of work, you have to put task by task, and the way to do this is very simple. You label them task. So work package 1, you will say task 1.1, task 1.2, task 1.3, and if you have any subtask, you would add an extra number there, 1.2.1, 1.2.2. Here you
to be honest, I'm not a big fan of these of subtasks. I mean, sometimes it's necessary, but I really try to avoid
them. But sometimes it's a matter of, and this is when you start to get these kind of numbers in, it's because things have gotten into really, for me, it often spells that there has been something going wrong in the in the discussions in the work group, in the work package group, because they suddenly cannot control themselves in what tasks should be, how the structure of tasks are being thrown out, and then you sit as a proposal developer afterwards and have to structure a discussion that they've been having in the group, where it's very difficult to put it up in a structure like this. I've been trying that several times, where it's they go down a path, and you just try to structure that in a coherent way in a description. I don't know if you can recognize that.
Yeah. I mean, I try to sit into as many of the of the calls as I can. A lot of times I'm listening and just replying to emails, or just half listening to it because I can't really contribute. Exactly. But you get to understand the process, and I could do low cerebral workload on the side while listening to it. And then when you see these things come up, then you just have to say, look, guys, I mean, something's wrong. Either the process, either it's just too big. That happens a lot, that you pack too much into one work package, and then you have to say, okay, I'm sorry, but it's not 5 tasks with 10 subtasks. This is actually 2 or 3 work packages, and we're going to have to split it different. And that usually makes everybody unhappy because it's one coherent piece of work, and it is. But at the end of the day, it's one coherent project that you're carving up into work packages in the first place. So you're just, again, making everybody unhappy by doing a little bit more carving that's artificial, but otherwise it doesn't work.
And I think I totally agree. And what I've seen sometimes when I didn't pay attention, or when my colleague when we in combination didn't realize what was going on in a work package group, where they suddenly sit with 20 tasks because they want, so for instance, developing a test, let's just say they need to do tests in 4 different demo settings, and then they put each demo site where it suddenly explodes.
And each demo site, we need to run it in version A, version B, and version C, and then it's a matrix.
And then we need also to do follow up. So everything gets its own. It's just no, wait, stop, guys. So this is a pure advice for everybody. Don't do that. If you have, you need to put everything under one task. If you have something like this, several demo sites, do not, for Christ's sake, do not start developing into tons of different tasks and subtasks just because of this.
And like, I mean, the demo sites actually have the counterexample. We had a work package on demo sites when we were doing the border control project, because we really said we were going to have a demo site in Greece, in Finland, and because it's different settings. And there it did make sense. And there you really said, well, the border in Finland is different than the border in Greece, starting with temperature ranges and all of that. Yeah. So sometimes, you do have to do it, but 9 out of 10 times, if you're going into this level of detail, unless it's absolutely necessary and asked for almost in the call text. If the call text says, and we need you to verify this at 5 demo sites in 5 different settings, then yes. But that's probably the only exception where it makes sense. And I mean, also one of the things that makes the whole thing of the work package structure so important, it's the one time where, there's 2 kinds of people. There's people who like to read a story, and there's people who like to look at bullet points to get an overview of what's going on. And you never know which evaluator you have.
Yeah.
So you have to write a good story in section 1, but you also have to have a good bullet point structure, which is basically what the tasks and work packages are. Because what will happen is everybody reads the first couple pages, and then some evaluators read the story in section 1, and some jump to the task description and say, okay, so I know an overall promise of what they're going to do from the first 5 pages, and now I'm going to see if what they're promising to do is in actionable tasks.
Indeed.
And if that doesn't match, you've lost. It's over. Yeah. It's 13 points, really good job, thank you, go away.
So I can refer back to my timeline series when I had Marie Proto on board to go through the excellence, and she's an evaluator herself, and she said something very similar to this. You have to impress me you really have to impress me on the first couple of pages. And if you don't, that will color my perception for the rest of what I'm reading.
Yeah.
So do that,
because 4 points. 4 points is a good grade.
Yeah.
But 3 4s is 12 points, and 12 points.
And you're not gonna get it.
It's not gonna fly.
Indeed. So I think also here you need to be. Work package descriptions are you don't. There's no story here. Here you need to be extremely concise, to the point.
It's
It's exactly that. What I'm looking at here, what they did, no bullets under the task. So you have the task descriptions. So what you would, so there the descriptions themselves are descriptive, but it's to the point.
That could be good, but they probably have the task title is probably totally clear, and then you have a description of that. Find the 7 elephants in Asia.
It's so
task name, and then we will be going to there, and looking for elephant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So very instructive here to everybody who's listening, and if you're doing this in parallel yourself. So there's a task, there's a task number, and then there's a title of what's supposed to be done. And then there's after the title, in continuation in that line, there's a lead partner. And it's the partner acronym, right? Lead partner and contributor partners acronyms, and then you have task duration, month,
M1 to M6,
M1 to M6, for instance. Yeah. So that's that, and then you would have the description, and it goes from anything to 2 lines to 8 lines, something like this, in the different numbers here. So what the problem here is that I think, actually, I don't know if it's a problem, but I think they are saying 1 page per work package description, right?
That's the target, yeah.
And you
also makes it a lot more readable, because the problem is, if it's a page and a third, then either you start the next one at 2/3.
And here we fade out of the first part of this episode on the work package descriptions. Next week we are moving into the complexities of the descriptions due to the ever-changing development of the content of the proposal and the interconnection between the project development. See you then. The grant. You have been listening to The Grant, the EU funding podcast.